shots. Damn, Sennheiser, what did you do with that?
Sony WF-1000 XM4, Bang & Olufsen EX, and the Sennheiser Momentum True Wireless 3. 3 premium wireless earbuds, 3 completely different choices. This is going to be a long video, full of tests, opinions, and puns. Goedendag, we're DHRME. Dumb humor requiring masterful elegance.
First off, this is a lot of alphabet soup, so we're gonna call these the Bang & Olufsen, the Sennheiser, and the Sony. So let's just start with the price. The Sennheiser is the cheapest of the 3, but the Sony gets discounted very often at some crazy prices. So keep an eye on the links in the description, and we'll come back to this at the end of the video.
Starting with looks, ironically the Bang & Olufsen is probably the most normal looking of the 3. The glass touch surface is a classy looking thing, but a bit too understated in our opinion. The Sony is bold, fat, and has a unique design with those killer noise cancelling mics integrated into the design. We'll talk about noise cancelling in our audio section in a bit. The Sennheiser has a 50 shades of black situation going on, and you know what? Color is satisfied. You also get a graphite color. The Sony has a dark and a light color, whereas the Bang & Olufsen has this blue one, but also a lighter and a blacker color.
When it comes to touch controls, the story here is pretty simple. The Sennheiser is the best. Most customization. Unfortunately, it also has a weird way of handling ANC transparency. You can't cycle between modes with the same gesture. You have to use 2 separate gestures. For example, one tap on the left earbud can be a transparency toggle, so it goes from transparency to normal. But for a noise cancelling toggle, you need another gesture. So let's say a triple tap. It's all very confusing. It's a weird decision, and we hope that they achieve parity with the rest of the industry. Sony's buds have customization, but it's not the best in terms of options that you get. The Bang & Olufsen has no customization, but we are pretty happy with the choices they've made for us out of the box. And they have single as well as dual bud control schemes, which can be confusing if you're a newbie. But at least you're not stuck with a situation where your volume controls can only go in one direction.
The cases are made of plain old plastic, textile covered plastic, and aluminium on the 3 earbuds. Yes, we thought the Bang & Olufsen was plastic in our full review, but we were wrong. Subscribe for more honest mistakes. But the design of the case is not only about form, but also function. Portability is the biggest reason to buy true wireless earbuds. I mean, if you're throwing it in a bag, it doesn't matter, but for us pocket wearers, bulging in the wrong place can be uncomfortable, literally and socially. In this, the Sony wins hands down. It's the shortest and the narrowest. And even though the case quality feels cheap and creaky, we appreciate the effort into making it pocketable. Every time I've had the Sennheiser in my front pocket, people have inevitably looked at my thigh, making me lose my momentum. As far as cases are concerned, it's not the volume that's the problem, but the shape, and especially the thickness. A longer length is easier to handle because it can be as long as it wants, but the thickness is what really hurts.
That's what she said. So guys, we got a thermal camera just to see how warm these buds get after about 60 minutes of wearing them. A quick side note here, getting better at our craft takes time and money. So we would appreciate any support you could give us, your time or your money. We'll take both. Watch this video and go see the links in the description as to how you can support us. So here's the video with the thermal camera. What's the takeaway? So if you live in a warm place or are a warm person with warm skin and warm ears, we think that the Sony might just be your best choice, but not by much. After 1 hour of sitting in dummy ears, the Sony was ironically the coolest by about 1 degree Celsius, whereas unsurprisingly, both the silicone tips were the same. Not really much to go on, but maybe if extreme heat is a problem, Sony's tips are better. But other than heat, how does the comfort work? Well, we're just 2 people with 4 ears, but comment upon comment on our channel keeps talking about how uncomfortable the hybrid foam tips that come with the Sony are. It might just be a function of many more Sony buds being sold and people not being used to these tips, but it would have been great if Sony had just included good old regular silicone tips. So unless you're someone who wants to buy third-party tips in addition to your earbuds, the Bang & Olufsen or the Sennheiser are our pick for best tips. Bang & Olufsen even provides one size of Comply foam tips in the box. However, if I really had to choose, I'd choose the Bang & Olufsen over the Sennheiser simply because it seems to be more reliable in the ear. The Sennheiser is also pretty good, don't get me wrong, but I'm probably biased towards the stem style design. However, I've also biked with the Sennheiser for about 2 or 3 kilometers and they didn't come loose even once. On the other hand, I had a brooch for lunch and they fell out 3 times. So yeah, fits are complicated.
Speaking of lunch, how do these do for workouts? Well, Sennheiser and Sony have an IPX4 rating and the Bang & Olufsen is a crazy IP57. For premium sounding buds, this is one of the best IP ratings across the board. Having said that, IPX4 is fine if dust resistance is not a problem and your workouts are light and your sweat glands are light. But for all other use cases, the Olufsen is a banger.
Now, if you're working out in the great outdoors or just biking to work like we do in the Netherlands, wind can be a problem for earbuds. Luckily, the Sony and the Sennheiser both have wind noise reduction modes, which work pretty well. The Sennheiser and Sony were pretty much the same for us, but the Bang & Olufsen has no such mode. The ANC is also no good with wind, so we just ended up turning off ANC or transparency entirely. You can, of course, do that with all 3 buds.
But what about other noise cancelling? Well, here are some samples for you. Use your ears and eyes and we'll tell you what our organs thought of these after the break. Not just in terms of options and customization, but the sheer strength of noise cancellation, the Sony is the best among these 3 and one of the best in the business. But the Sennheiser is just so close. We're talking about an 8.5 out of 10 versus an 8 out of 10. Considering how terrible Sennheiser's ANC has been in the past, we're super happy that they've pulled up their socks. The Bang & Olufsen's ANC is also fine, but doesn't quite match up to these 2, especially with higher frequencies.
Alright, now let's talk about transparency. We thought long and hard about how to communicate this via video and we think that this is the best way. Now what you're hearing is how I would sound without earbuds, and now this is with the Sony. This has a pretty good ambient mode with some hiss. Do you hear it? But you have choices here. I'm going to play a low-level background sound at about 50 dB. And as we go through the various settings, maybe you can see if the focus to voice setting, as Sony calls it, makes any difference. So this is with focus to voice on, as you see on your screen. I'm going to switch the focus to voice off. And the idea is that now you hear also the lower end sounds a bit more and not just my voice. And then of course we're going to do the pop-pop popsicle at 3 different levels. This is at max, pop-pop popsicle, in the middle, ice icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3. The Sennheiser has a very strong ambient mode and the clarity is very good, but bumping up the slider as it is right now makes the white noise also proportionally louder. Do you hear that? Pop-pop popsicle, ice icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3. What do you think? And finally we have the Bang & Olufsen EX, by far the best sounding true wireless earbuds. But how good is their transparency? Well, for one, there's very low white noise and the lower end frequencies are also cancelled out a bit more. So this is how I would sound with the lower end background sound on at about 50 dB to simulate kind of like an office environment. Can you hear me clearly compared to the background sound? And now I'm going to switch levels and do our apparently level 1 is the lowest it goes. Alright then. Pop-pop popsicle, ice icicle, testing.
So we think that the Sennheiser is definitely the best at transparency and comes very close to the Sony in noise cancelling. In fact, we'd say it's at the level that for your buying decision, this should make no real difference. So guys, Sony's headphones app has been out for a while and it's pretty slick. Great customization options on sound and ANC. But now let's talk about Sennheiser's app. It's pretty damn good. In fact, out of the 3 apps here, and they're all quality apps, we think Sennheiser has the best app. It's a redesign and everything is clear. You can customize what the taps do, and a unique feature that none of the other apps has. You can see a list of connections and switch between them in the app. It works reliably, and it's easily one of the best solutions for us if you want to switch between more than 2 devices. Bang & Olufsen is the only company here with 2 names and also the only one that connects to 2 devices simultaneously. I think that would be great for most people with 2 devices, but the moment you add another device, you're kind of going to love the Sennheiser's and Sony's approach better. Wait, did I say Sony? Yes, I did, because even though Sony doesn't have a nice connection list like Sennheiser or a 2-time like Bang & Olufsen, you can pull the connection from a previously paired device. So you want to switch to your laptop from your phone, just choose the Sony from the Bluetooth menu and you're done. It's also extremely reliable. I don't know about you, but I switch between 2 laptops, 2 phones and 1 tablet, so this is what I prefer the most. In terms of other extras, all 3 let you use one bud on their own for music and calls and give you an in-ear sensor to automatically pause or play audio. All 3 also come with wireless charging. And speaking of charging and battery life, it's Sony all the way. A solid 8 hours with ANC on. The Bang & Olufsen is at 6 hours with ANC, and the Sennheiser claims 7 hours. But is that with ANC on or off? It's unclear. But if the juice in the case is important to you, then go with the Sennheiser or Bang & Olufsen. You get 3 additional charges versus 2 on the Sony.
Okay, so let's talk about sound. First off, damn Sennheiser, what did you do with that bass? That bass is bassy. Even listening to something like Silk Sonic Skate is extremely warm. That funky guitar is all but absent. Your mind is basically searching for the vocals through the bass guitar. There's also a pronounced bass boost in the normal mode as against the ANC mode, which is weird. In most cases, you see the reverse, but whatever. Jazz also comes across as a bit too warm, but I've said all the negative things. Don't get me wrong, these sound pretty damn great. Yeah, I'm confusing. It's just that the default tuning is not to my taste. In terms of pure volume, all of these are loud, with the BeoPlay EX being the loudest by a bit, followed by the Sennheiser, and then the Sony on LDAC, and lastly Sony on AAC. Now, Sennheiser also has a personalized audio feature called Sound Check to tune the audio to what your own personal ears like. Now, this seems to be the trend in most new buds these days, but every time I use a feature like that, the buds just end up sounding worse. Except this one. Sennheiser's implementation is great. You get 3 choices and you go through these 3 choices a couple of times, but the difference here is you can listen to your own music while making those choices instead of some weird music samples you've never heard. And what's even better, the app just spits out an EQ setting, which you can tweak. Brilliant. For me, it spat out a high treble EQ preset, which I thought made it sound pretty good, where much more detail is revealed.
Moving to the Sony, there's been a lot of talk over the past few months about how Sony's buds aren't the best sounding. But the thing is, Sony's buds are also the most customizable when it comes to sound. And if you start tweaking them with that 5-band EQ and a bass slider, they can sound pretty damn good. Using the Bright preset really opened up the sound for us, and we started tweaking from there. They support LDAC, but it doesn't really mean much when the tuning out of the box veils the highs. But they are still in the good category for true wireless earbuds, if you manage to tweak them. But out of the 3, still the Bang & Olufsen has to be the best sounding. Everything about it is just right. There's no fiddling or tweaking or EQing or smart audioing required. We gave up a long time ago on saying that LDAC will simply be the best sounding codec, despite its theoretical advantages. And the Bang & Olufsen is living proof of this. Tuning buds is an art form in itself with all the trade-offs you've got to make, but Olufsen's got it bang on.
For mids, I tried to test the song Hey Now by London Grammar, as suggested on our community page. Using the boosted high setting on the Sennheiser helped with the instruments, but did it make the voice a little less natural. By far my favorite for vocals as far as pretty much all frequencies were the Bang & Olufsen. Even with the bass, there's a clear presence but very little bloat and no interferences with mid frequencies where the voices live. The muted guitar strings being picked are in the mix and are very musical and percussion-y. Interestingly, our EQ settings on the Sony WF-1000 XM4 gave it a more open sound and maybe sound even a little bit better than the Sennheiser Momentum 3. Now both the Sony and the Sennheiser have an emphasis on the mid bass. The bass you hear rather than the bass you feel, but the Sennheiser has the edge there. So much talk, where does that leave us? Just like noise cancelling, the Sennheiser and the Sony are close. But, and this is important, after finding an EQ setting that we liked. We hesitatingly give the win to the Sennheiser, but it's not a huge difference. In summary, the Olufsen's a banger, followed by Momentum in the middle, and the XM4 is Sony-er, but so far.
In terms of environmental impact, Sennheiser's products are supposed to be made to last, which means spare parts for many of their products are available. So you should be able to buy each bud independently if you lose one. They also try to improve their production processes using renewable energy. Sennheiser also claims to avoid composite materials while reducing the amount of plastics and focusing on using paper and paperboard. This was before Sennheiser was taken over though. We hope they keep this going. Sony's even gone as far as making the most boring packaging in the world without any plastic. 99% of the packaging material, except the labels, are made from recycled and sustainable materials developed especially for Sony. And we checked with Bang & Olufsen about what they do for the environment, but got no response. They don't even have a sustainability report for 2022. The older reports do show that they've made changes to their packaging to lower the carbon footprint. They also do stand behind a select number of UN's sustainability development goals.
So how do voices sound on phone calls? Judge for yourself at the end of this video. We got all the samples, quiet, noisy and windy conditions, but the lowdown is that Sony still lags behind. If you're in quiet conditions, then we'd quietly accept any of these, but let's start with noisy situations. Sennheiser tries to isolate only the mid frequencies and the lower end sound is almost completely absent. The Bang & Olufsen does alright with noisy conditions, but the noise suppression is minimal. And the Sony, well, listen for yourself after this video. In windy conditions, the Sennheiser does what the Sony tries to do. It isolates the voices quite well and you don't hear much of the wind, just a little hiss. The Sony tries to do this as well, but it also ends up cutting out some frequencies in the voice, making you sound like a robot who's in pain. The Bang & Olufsen kinda lets in everything, the wind, the voice, so it's pretty much up to the listener to decide how it's sounding. Now, this approach of Bang & Olufsen can also be a good approach in unpredictable situations, but overall we think that the Sennheiser is the best for calls. What do you think? Do you agree? Leave a comment and do all the YouTubey things. Call controls on all these buds are above average. Volume controls are present and you can answer or hang up calls, but there's no muting here. The Sennheiser lets you auto answer calls by just putting buds in your ears, and the Bang & Olufsen lets you listen to your surroundings or cancel them while on a call. So overall, the Fachmann choice here is the Sennheiser followed by the Bang & Olufsen.
Before we get to the call samples, which of these buds should you buy? Well, despite Sony being older than the others, we think it's still a pretty solid choice, except for phone calls. You know, if price were not an issue, we think the Bang & Olufsen would have been our choice. It's the best sounding of these three, for us the most comfortable and has a good touch control scheme. It's also the most water and dust resistant. But on balance, and if the prices hold between these three, our choice would be the Sennheiser Momentum True Wireless 3. Great at calls, reasonably good sounding, an excellent app, great controls. It's kind of a more well-rounded package. And here's where it gets tricky. If we see the prices right now in the Netherlands, the Sony WF-1000 XM4 is at 209 euros and the Momentum 3 at 249. Depending on how much that additional 40 euros is worth to you and what you find more important, you might even choose the Sony WF-1000 XM4. So what do you think, guys? Which one do you want to get? Jump onto our Discord server and let us know. You've been jumping on servers and we've been DHRME. Namaste. Microphone samples coming up.
Sony WF-1000 XM4 quiet conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Bang & Olufsen EX, quiet conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Sennheiser Momentum True Wireless 3, quiet conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Sony WF-1000 XM4, noisy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Bang & Olufsen EX, noisy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Sennheiser Momentum True Wireless 3, noisy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Sony WF-1000 XM4, windy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Bang & Olufsen EX, windy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, test, test, testing. Sennheiser 2 LS3, windy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3.